Hello and welcome to Developing Stories. I am Obi Chukwemeka. President Bola Tinubu has urged African leaders, including subnationals, to quit depending on foreign plants, saying the continent is in dire need of leaders who wield policy as a surgical blade instead of a slogan. Tinubu lamented a situation where African leaders confine themselves to foreign blueprints while refusing to emancipate themselves from client-state mentalities. President Tinubu, represented by Vice President Kashim Shettima at the Dr. Kayode Fayemi Commemorative Symposium and launch of Amandla Institute for Policy and Leadership Advancement, said the world is not waiting for Africa to catch up. Tinubu argued that it would be wishful thinking to hope that the renaissance of Africa would happen as a gift, maintaining that it must be built. He lamented that for far too long, leaders in Africa have outsourced their thinking, relying on institutions and ideologies that treat countries on the continent as consumers and not creators, just as he insisted that the youth must be empowered to innovate in tech hubs across the continent. The First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, has canvassed both global and local support and partnership to end female genital mutilation (FGM) in Nigeria. Senator Tinubu declared female genital mutilation as a human rights violation without any health benefits, promising that the administration of President Bola Tinubu would end the menace. In a statement commemorating this year's International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation, the First Lady quoted the UNFPA as saying Nigeria has the highest absolute number of FGM globally. She said over 20 million women and girls had undergone FGM, while about 14 million girls were still at risk of also experiencing this practice by the year 2030. The federal government has announced the scrapping of all junior secondary school GSS and senior secondary schools SSS in the country and introduced a compulsory 12-year uninterrupted basic education model, after which a Nigerian child can aspire to higher education. The Nigerian government, with this development, is seeking the abolition of the 6334 education system and replacing it with 124. Minister of Education Dr. Tunji Alausa, during the 2025 Extraordinary National Council on Education meeting in Abuja, noted that by subsuming secondary education into basic education, students will benefit from uninterrupted learning up to the age of 16. The minister said the federal government approval of the National Council on Education to officially adopt 16 years as the minimum entry age requirement into the country's tertiary institutions. Alausa said the new policy is in line with the global best practices, while stressing that it would also reduce dropout rates by eliminating financial and systemic barriers that currently prevent students from completing secondary education. The Trade Union Congress (TUC) has thrown its weight behind concerns raised by the Nigeria Labour Congress over further increases in electricity tariff and tolls on selected highways, as well as the planned telecom tariff hike. President of TUC, Festus Osifo, at a news conference in Abuja shortly after a meeting of the National Administrative Council of the Trade Union Congress in Abuja, urged the government to urgently address the challenges associated with high exchange rate, which continues to devalue the naira in the foreign exchange market. A meeting between the federal government and NLC on Monday, February 3, 2025, produced a memorandum of agreement which forced the labor union to hold for 2 weeks its planned nationwide protest over the proposed 50% telecom tariff hike. Although the federal government recently debunked plans to increase electricity tariff by 65%, TUC said it was alarming that the government even considered the hike in the first instance. Osifo lamented that the previous increment already inflicted severe hardships on Nigerians. He warned that if the policies were not reviewed to favor the citizens, the TUC may be compelled to mobilize for mass protest. Now, in a bid to complement Ondo State government's efforts at combating the spread of Lassa fever in the state, the Institute of Human Virology Nigeria, IHVN, has donated equipment to the Public Health Laboratory in Akure. The move, in collaboration with the Ondo State government and the Nigeria Center for Disease Control (NCDC), follows the urgent need for equipment to carry out diagnosis for Lassa fever in the state capital and other areas of the state. Joy Pius tells us more.
The fight against the spread of Lassa fever has been in the front burner for government and healthcare providers in Ondo State. But the challenge of testing samples has been a Herculean task. As part of ways of bridging this gap, the Institute of Human Virology Nigeria, IHVN, provided this state-of-the-art equipment to support the existing molecular laboratory in Akure, with the optimization efforts of the state government and the Nigeria Center for Disease Control (NCDC). The epidemiology and surveillance manager for the institutes, Dr. Saiki Musa, noted that due to the increased cases of Lassa fever outbreak, the institute is collaborating to provide modern equipment for carrying out diagnostic tests in the state capital.
In 2023, we were here to establish some gaps in the control of Lassa fever, and that included, amongst others, the fact that there is a need to establish another public health laboratory to complement the effort in FMC Owo. The state took it as a duty to decentralize this testing opportunity, and IHVN, through the funding from CDC, United States Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, took on this effort to support the facility with some equipment that will complement what already exists. And some of these equipments are the ones we've mentioned: the chemistry auto-analyzer, hematology auto-analyzer, the safety cabinets, and we have also tried to certify some of the existing equipment.
Permanent Secretary, Ondo State Ministry of Health, Dr. Adeniran Ikumola, commended the collaborative efforts of the institute, adding that the equipment will be properly utilized.
We want to especially appreciate Mr. Governor for providing the enabling environment for partners to collaborate with us. We have here now, we have inspected the equipment donated to us by CDC, that is the Federal Ministry of Health through NCDC, and then facilitated by IHVN. We've gone through their multi-million equipment that we assist